Hey guys, it's Fraser here from rugbystrengthandconditioning.com, back with another video on how you can level up your training. Today specifically we're looking at acceleration. We use resisted sled sprints a lot here at BLA Rugby, so I'm going to give you some recommendations around the optimal loading based on the current research. Without further ado, let's go. Guys, before we take a quick look at the detail, let's talk about why sled training is so effective. So essentially, you're just adding resistance to your sprints, helping you to be more powerful and explosive, which are key ingredients for those crucial first 10 to 20 meters. So when we talk about optimal loading, you have to understand that it's an individual thing. This is the same for peak power on the power clean. What's optimal for you might not be optimal for your training partner. Maybe you get that peak power output at 60%, maybe he or she gets it at 80%. The research provides a range and there's definitely scope for individualization. So this is the exact same thing on sled sprints. There is a large range and it depends on what quality you're trying to train. I can think of two athletes in my squad right now that have the same sprint time, but one of them produces a lot of force, they spend time on the ground and they have a great stride length, and the other tends to glide and just tap the ground, but they have the same acceleration time. So there's two different ways to get the same outcome. Now, this first player that's more forceful might need to spend more time at the other end of the spectrum and use lighter sled loads. We'll talk about that in a second. Whereas player two would be better served going at this side of the spectrum and working more on his power and his strength to improve his force capabilities, and that way they both get faster. Guys, hopefully this is making sense. Let's look at the research. Now, there are several studies that have evidenced the fact that bringing in resisted sled sprints as an intervention in your training can be a really useful way to improve your acceleration ability. In fact, a recent systematic review looking at optimizing sprint performance in rugby advised coaches to use small-sided games and resistant sprint training to target short distance acceleration and agility. In terms of optimal loading, early research looked at this 10% rule, not using more than 10% of your body mass, with the fear that if you go heavier than that, your sprinting mechanics can change and then you ultimately become slower. But more recent research exploring this topic has gone up to 80% of body mass and even higher, and has shown that that is a really effective way of improving acceleration ability as well. So while heavy sled sprinting might alter mechanics acutely for that moment, for that sprint, for those sets and reps, if you're periodizing it properly and including free sprints as well, it's not going to negatively affect your technique. So from the research, we've got loading from 10% all the way up to 100% of body mass. What is the optimal load for you? Now guys, if you don't have a way to test this because you're at a rugby club that doesn't have light gates or GPS, then I would use just some classic periodization, which I'm going to show you in a second. In terms of optimal loading, it's all going to depend on your force velocity profile. Think back to the example I gave you with my guys. So for example, if you're trying to develop maximal horizontal force output, then very heavy sleds is a good idea. 80% of body mass, 100% of body mass, really encouraging a solid forward lean. So our back row player, Martin, and our winger, Nasty, both benefited from that type of work because that's the area that they needed to improve. That was their weak point, let's say, and that's why we trained it. However, there are other guys on the other side of the spectrum that need force outputs at higher speeds. This for us was Jack, this is Ali Moretti. Their relative leg strength is incredible, and they just need to work on lighter loads on the sled to get the benefits of resisted sled sprinting to make them faster. So it's not a cut and dry, go away and use 20% for 6 weeks and improve your acceleration. No, instead, try following something like this. So if you can't test your force velocity profile, then being systematic and sensible with your programming means you're going to be in the best place possible to run personal bests at the end of this intervention. As per the research, include this within your rugby training, conditioning games, small-sided games, if you're trying to improve your agility and acceleration. As it goes without saying that this should be part of a strength and conditioning program that has lower body strength work, lower body power work, and of course plyometrics. So sled training really is a good way to improve your acceleration, and by programming and periodizing it properly, you'll be well on your way to those crucial personal bests, coming fast off the line to make tackles in defense, or getting those crucial line breaks in attack. Guys, let me know how you include resisted sled sprints into your program in the comment section. As ever, if you found this video useful, then give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Also guys, if you're interested in speed, you'll want to check out some of these videos. On this video, I talk about a diagnostic approach that I use, similar to this one. You're kind of training someone's weaknesses to make them faster, so it's really quite simple and we get into detail on that one. Thanks for watching guys, cheers!